You're watching the CG Live podcast. Now, the content for these podcasts are a little bit different than our normal pods as we bring on members and do long-form interviews. These were actually recorded live at our events with members that were going on stage to present. So the content is killer. Enjoy the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
So Jeremiah is on stage here today. So I grabbed him before he goes on stage this afternoon. Why don't we start with this, Jeremiah? Why don't you tell everybody where you operate out of, what you do, and how long you've been doing it?
Sure. So I'm a full-time fix and flip investor on Long Island, New York. And we do pretty much new builds. We do, there's some ground up construction. There's mostly high-end fix and flip, right? So our rehab budgets will be anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000 on a fix and flip. We do a lot of wholesale deals as well. And then obviously we'll do some wholesale from time to time, but primarily our business is fix and flip.
Fix and flip. Has it always been that?
Yeah, it's always been that way. It's just kind of one of those things that I've just stayed at and just refined the system and the process and just continued to make it better. I also think our market's conducive to that, type of exit strategy.
So you've been coming to CG for 4 years now.
Yeah, over 4 years, January of 2021.
Yeah. So we're going on 5 years. First of all, how'd you find out about Collective Genius and what made you want to be a part of it?
I think at the time it was probably through social media. I had friends that were investors that were in what's now CG Premier. And I saw that they were, all touting this organization. And so I had reached out about joining it. But at the time, I don't think I really had a large enough business to do that. And then lo and behold, in, I guess late 2020, early 21, I heard that, they were forming a second group known as CG Select. Mm-hmm. You and I had that conversation. It was a great call. I didn't feel pressured in any sort of way. You just said, hey, this is what it is. And at the time, I guess it was pretty attractive because we were in the midst of COVID. I was out of New York, getting out of COVID. You know what I mean? You needed a full body scan, just to be able to exit.
But you felt at home because every New Yorker was coming to Florida at that time.
Yeah, it was. But there was a lot of actually virtual options that you had offered, which now that's kind of a thing of the past. But at the time, that was, pretty attractive. And I plugged into the first meeting and I've been hooked ever since.
So if you're joining us right now, you are watching a live Collective Genius podcast. We are here at our event, our CG Select event in Sarasota, Florida. Today is day one since Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. On Sunday, we didn't want our members traveling, so this is a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday event. Mr. Jeremiah Dalton is one of our presenters today. Right now, currently going on in other rooms are our track presentations. They're on hiring and sales and marketing, all the things that real estate investors need to continue to grow and scale their business. You joined this group over 4 years ago, as you mentioned before. In this time, I've watched you grow and shrink and grow at the same time.
Fair point.
Both physically, from a business, from a physical standpoint, but also your business as well. I've seen it operate at a higher level. What would you say of all the things, if you had to boil down all the things over the last 4.5 years that you've taken away and it truly has helped you get to where you are today in your business? What would you say that is?
I think I grew a lot as a marketer. I think that's first and foremost. So I've always felt that for you to be successful in real estate, you have to be able to buy the house at the absolute right price, right? And the absolute right price allows me to go out. It makes everything easier after that, right? It allows you to, allows you to go out and hire the contractor that may not be the most expensive or the cheapest, but he's not the most expensive either, but he's one that's going to give you great bang for your buck, right? And you could afford to pay it. And too often I was seeing other investors going out there and overpaying, and then trying to make that money back up on the rehab or trying to overprice the home, which we know it never works, right? So I really grew as a marketer here. I grew in all the strategies that I was able to implement to be able to get deals, okay? But I think I also grew from a personal standpoint where I started to be, I don't think anyone's ever going to accuse me of being phony, right? I think that's fair.
That's very fair.
Okay. But sometimes I ran the risk of being maybe a little bit too aggressive at times, right? And sometimes could rub people the wrong way. And so
you
yeah, once or twice, my friend, and it's true. So, but the thing is that I started to watch all these people of very high character, and I watched them have an edge while maybe not acting like they had something to prove to everybody, right? And I think sometimes I could kind of come out of the gate at this as this like brash New Yorker, and I kind of actually learned to tone it down a little bit, which actually made me a more relatable person.
Sure.
Okay. And then by being a more relatable person allowed me to expand my network. Okay. And a lot of our deals come from relationships, not just marketing, but from relationships. So if you were to ask me the two things that I gained from being, in the CG community is I learned to be a better marketer. And I learned to just be more of my authentic self. You know what I mean? And that I think helped me to become a lot more relatable to people. And in turn, I've seen a lot of deals brought my way because of that.
There's so much good in that. I think that a lot of investors that are doing this on their own, you may be the biggest fish, in your market, or you're doing things at a high level and you continue to grow your business. I think being in rooms like this, you realize that there are things that even if you're doing well, that you could be missing. And I know that you were doing very well coming into this room, but I also know that you're a very competitive person.
I am.
And so getting into this room, one thing that we do at every single meeting is offer up this belt that you see in front of you here. This belt only goes to 3 or 4, depending upon the meeting, 3 or 4 members that give value at a high level and are voted by their peers. We call it the Go-Giver Award. It's a Go-Giver belt. It can be won by presentations, or it could be won by having a conversation like this with someone in the hallway and you offer up something of value that helps that person get unstuck or helps with their particular challenge. And I know you being a competitive person, for the first couple of years, you were like second or third.
Yeah, back when we used to do the rankings of first, second, and third.
Yeah, you were
second, third.
Like right there.
Which was okay. Because I felt as though at least, all right, people are resonating with the presentations, right?
Sure.
So from that standpoint, I liked it because I felt like, okay, people are getting value out of this, right? But by the same token, it pissed me off that, I wasn't able to win,
But I can tell you that you just said, when I said there's a lot of good in in your first recap, I think the difference of you, because you've now won how many belts?
I've won one belt.
We're going for 2 today.
We're going to go for 2 today, and I had multiple second place finishes, but there's no points, as they say in Top Gun, for second place. Let's be honest.
You did win one, and I think that the biggest difference was that you just continue to get better and want to give value. That's the key part. I think that's the secret sauce of this group is that you have great members come in and say, how do I give as much value as I possibly can? Give till it hurts. We've heard many times in our rooms. How do we give as much as we possibly can to walk home with that, to say, I made a difference? And I think that for you, you always gave great content, but it was that edge that you presented with. And when you softened that edge, believe it or not, you softened that edge, you walked home with that belt.
Yeah. I remember a very bright, handsome person gave me some advice about maybe toning it down a bit. I can't remember who he was, but I think he actually may be standing across from me right
now. Might be. I'm really good at connecting people, and every once in a while I
connecting with people. You're very good at connecting with people.
That. I think that because I'm curious. At all times, I'm curious about where someone is and if there's a better way or something I can help them with to get them to the next level. I saw it with you. There's not a lot of New Yorkers in the group. There's some, right? But none that came across like you were like, I'm going to punch you in the face with all this value.
Yeah.
And so instead of punching them in the face, you offered it on a kind platter, and they were able to digest it at a better level. So I say all of that to say this. A lot of people come in here for strategy and being in the room with other like-minded real estate investors. But what you see is almost this metamorphosis of a human being beyond just a business owner. You see people that have this iron sharpened iron, believe it does work, especially when you connect at a deeper level. And for you, all you were missing to connect at the highest level was just softening that hard candy shell.
Yes.
People needed to get to nougat. You were holding them out with the hard candy shell.
Yeah.
So speaking of hard candy, little hard eye candy. See how?
Oh, I see where you went with that. All right, that was good.
So, speaking of metamorphosis, this man has changed in so many ways. But his presentation today is speaking to his change. And why don't you give a preview of what you'll be presenting on stage here today?
Sure. So a few years ago, things were going wrong in my life, and nothing was really headed in the right direction. And I kind of felt like caught flat-footed. Right? We talked about earlier. Right? Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt I was getting hit left and right, and so I needed to make a change. And so I decided the best thing I can do was just change myself physically. Right. And so I went all in on that, and I had this big physical transformation, and then all these other people saw it, and they were like, well, what did you do? Right. And I told them, I passed them over to the trainer that I used. Right. And he's had so many success stories that he's now a CG vendor himself. Right. And so I think the biggest part of it was really understanding that, as a father, as an investor, like sometimes we do, and I'm sure you understand this, right? You try to put everybody before yourself, right? But there was a moment in time where I had to kind of step back, and I kind of had to take care of myself a little bit, right? And I talk about this in the presentation, right? To make I, as you know, want to make an impact, right?
Yep.
Right now, it seems to me I'm making impacts by posting shirtless photos of myself. So right? That seems to be how it's happening, right? Okay, so then maybe that's my lot in life, okay? And that's okay because it's making an impact. But to be the very best for others, you got to be the very best for yourself, right?
Where did that? But I don't want to gloss over this.
No.
Like, what was that moment? Like, did you hit rock bottom, or what? Was there a moment?
It was a combination of things. So I'll talk about this in the presentation. What happened is that all these things happened within a span of 3-4 weeks. And if you remember, May of 22, I called you in like a panic, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, our market's been pretty resilient in New York, okay? But in May of 2022, interest rates went up and the market went sideways for a bit. And I was losing a lot of money on flips I shouldn't have bought, okay? I had stopped work orders on other flips. Okay, further compounding those losses. I was getting audited by the IRS. I had a title claim that came up out of nowhere on a flip that I was selling where I was actually going to make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And an heir came out of the woodwork before closing and held up the entire sale, threatened to tie up all sorts of investor money, right? My oldest son, my middle child, behavior was so bad that it basically sent my wife into a depression. Mm-hmm. And all this happened within a span of a few weeks. And so it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And I joke about the shirtless photos, but there was another real estate investor that I was just random Facebook friends with him. And he puts up this before and after photo of himself. And the thing is, and you'll see it in the presentation, like it was identical to the way I looked. And I was like, holy cow, like he looks like that, but I want to look like that. And for some reason, I thought, if I can do that, my wife was telling me I looked unhealthy. Investors were telling me I looked unhealthy. That coupled with all this bad stuff that was happening, and because it had hit me so hard, my confidence was shot. And so at that point, something was telling me, I don't know what it was, coincidence, divine intervention, luck, whatever it was saying, you got to do this. If you could transform yourself physically, everything's going to get better. I don't know why I thought that. I had no basis for it.
Sure.
Right. And so I did. And then in doing so, all these other areas of my life started to get better. And the presentation, this goes beyond just, hey, I feel better about myself, right? I think better, I function better. It's way deeper than that, and there's just, there's a lot of components that I didn't really think about until when I sat down to do this presentation, I really went granular and said, why is this impacting me the way it is?
So from a business standpoint, you get into that. How much, give a quick preview of, what you're going to present on of how this life change has affected you as a business owner.
Well, first of all, it's affected me as a leader, right? Your ability to lead other people. I think it's very easy to expect high standards from other people when they see you expect high standards from yourself.
I agree.
Right? So you set the standards, you set the stage, right? And so it's been a lot easier to expect as close to perfection as you possibly can because people see what I demand of myself.
Yeah.
So I think that plays a big role as a leader, right? I also think it's important for your own personal brand, right? As platforms change and AI all of a sudden becomes a tool that maybe people are using to find who they're going to sell their house to, you building your brand is going to play a role. It may not be the main factor or the only factor, but it'll be a factor, right? So it's helped me with branding. I've been, very outspoken, so to speak, or, open about, my physical transformation. My wife jokes that I should get an OnlyFans account with all the shirtless photos that I post. Okay. But at the end of the day, right, I've put that out there and people have seen that. I've built relationships with people who are in the real estate industry
Sure.
that knew what I was doing, but never wanted to have a conversation until they saw the physical transformation, right? And so I've just been, I think it's shown that, I've been a lot more vulnerable, in which I think maybe from the sidelines, people thought like, hey, he's got this beautiful family, he's got this great business, everything is good. And yes, parts of it were good, but I wasn't good.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so that, again, it goes back to how relatable can you be? And so I think that's helped me be more relatable, whether it's that as a leader or whether it's somebody that is just looking from the outside in.
So again, if you're watching this right now, you're watching the very first Collective Genius live podcast. We're here in Sarasota at our CG Select and Elevate meeting. We have over 300 total real estate investors in both our Select and Elevate rooms right now in tracks that they're watching other members present on topics that, everyone has challenges with. Jeremiah is going to be presenting later this afternoon. He's by himself on the Select stage. I can tell you this. I know that you've been second and third many a time with that belt, and you've won the belt once, but leaving an impact and legacy, you've done that beyond that belt. And I don't know if I've ever said this to you, but I have seen your impact on others within this group. Your trainer, that is now a service provider within this group, has helped others also make that transformation, including one that won a belt at the last meeting because he saw your presentation. I mean, that's got to make you feel pretty good.
And that was actually the impetus behind doing the main stage presentation, because I had presented on it once 2 years ago. It was part of another presentation that I gave last year, which actually that's when I won the belt, right? And then I had the privilege of being in the room for Ryan's presentation. Mm-hmm. And not only does he win the belt, he wins presentation of the year. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is maybe impacting people maybe even more than I'm giving it credit for, right? And so I felt as though, okay, to have the most impact, let me talk about it on the main stage.
Yeah, it will be impactful.
I'm bringing the heat.
Yeah, I know you will. I've seen the presentation. I always say that, the members that come in and give the most value always receive tons of value that they probably weren't expecting to receive. We're early on. We're in our first, we're just now starting the second half of the first day. Any conversations that you have that are notable, or conversations that you've had that maybe, something that you came in with a challenge that someone has said, hey, have you tried this, and opened your mind to what you might go back and implement?
As of this point, I think what has really kind of struck me the most is, I think going back to the view from the outside in, I look at somebody like Eric Brewer, right? And I say to myself, okay, right? Like, this is a guy that as an investor, you got to think he's got it all figured out, right? This guy's bulletproof, right? And then he talks about, look at these regulations that are coming down the pike, and these are things now that I've got to do, right? And so it's a wake-up call, right? Because to me, and I'm sure you agree, like, he's one of the premier, if not the premier business, in all of CG. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? If he can get caught off guard, right? Because he even admitted like he wasn't expecting it. That could happen to us too. So that, I think, was really the most impactful to me.
That's a great takeaway.
Yeah. And then watching him and how he pivoted, and then seeing a guy, right, that used to do all these rehabs and then almost said, I had to like relearn the process, But then the funny thing was, is I saw like some of the stuff he was posting, and I was like, I got a walkthrough checklist for when buyers do their walkthrough, that all of that my guy has to go through so that we make sure that we don't have any, problems the day of the closing. I'm going to send this to Eric. You know what I mean? Because maybe, and listen, I don't know how much Eric's going to learn from me from a real estate investing standpoint, but maybe he'll take a few, key pointers away from that, And so when you see that and you're like, oh, okay, like here's this big investor and here's some stuff, still some stuff that he's learning, right? Or relearning, but I got a thing or two that I might be able to help him, And that's pretty cool to see as well, that even our businesses may be different from a size standpoint, but you could still help each other.
The best businesses in this group are always evolving, always changing as the markets change. And we always say our job is not to predict the future in this community. Our job is to prepare you for it. That's what's going on in these rooms right now. If someone is watching this very first live CG podcast, and they were, on the fence about joining the community. They're a real estate investor. You've been in the group now over 4 years. What would you say to them?
I think if you are the kind of person that's coming in looking to help others, because I'll be frank, like there are sometimes you see guys come in and they're just looking to take what they want to take and leave, right? But those guys don't last, right? Like, and nothing's perfect, but by and large, it's a group of people. And I always say, like, when I come here, right, I come here because I see so many bad things that happen in my business, right? Not me personally, but just from a transactional standpoint, you see the lowest of the low, right? You see how bad people can behave, and you feel like, okay, these people don't share the same ethics, the same values as me. Am I the only one that's like, has any kind of moral compass? But then you come here, and it's a completely different scenario. And everyone's like-minded, right? So if you are that person that's here to give and you really want to do good and you really want to help others, even if you feel like you don't have much to give, because quite frankly, I didn't have much to give. And I'm going to talk about this in my presentation. But honestly, I didn't feel like I was providing much value to the group for many years. And it bothered me and it ate at me. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because it pushed me to try to over-deliver down the line. And so if you're one of those people that really is not about taking, but, giving to others, then it's the right fit.
I can tell you this, that, if you're looking for your tribe, people that speak the same language as you, your board of directors, you get, what you put into it, but also how you engage in the community. Jeremiah probably texts me every single day in a good way. I actually
say every day.
Close. 2
to 3 times.
Borderline taking full advantage of me at this point. But I say that jokingly because I actually enjoy our back and forth. He makes me better because of some of the questions that he asks, not just about the community, but in general about the market. And it makes me ask other questions that I might not have been thinking about at that particular time, or what type of service provider. Hey, here's 2 different providers. Who should I choose and why? That engagement is what is the secret sauce, is that continuing to challenge each other to be better. So is this what you thought it would be, your very first podcast with CG?
Pretty much right on par.
Okay.
I knew that you would deliver. There was no doubt, right, that you were going to come in, you were going to ask the right questions, you were going to be prepared. I never had any doubt. You know what I mean?
Pro, man.
You are a pro. You know what I mean? And I feel honored to be the first guest of the first CG live podcast.
I felt it was important that I come to grab you first because of presenting today. You're going to give a tremendous amount of value on that stage. So thank you in advance for that presentation that you're going to deliver on stage. And thank you for being the very first live CG podcast guest.
You got it. Anytime, buddy.
All right, so what are you waiting for? If you want to be in the room with guys like Jeremiah and other CG members that are presenting right now on all the things that you're probably struggling with in your business, and you have something that you can give value to this community as well, all you have to do is go and check us out at thecollectivegenius.com. There's an application there. We've got a community for you if you're a full-time real estate investor. Would love to meet with you, see if this is the right fit for you. And obviously, if you've got value to bring, we would love to have that conversation with you about this community. In addition, we are now, I think, 10 episodes in, 12 episodes. I forget. I've lost count. We've got a lot more coming every single week. I'm being told, I think, 11 now. One just dropped today. So if you want to check out that podcast, it's thecgpodcast.com. It's on YouTube. It's on all of the places that you get your podcast. Please, if you like that show, and I've heard a lot of great feedback here today, it makes me feel good that the work that we're putting in on that show, there's lots of great value being shared. Again, you can find that at thecgpodcast.com. Like, subscribe, share. We'd love to hear your feedback on that podcast. And we'll be back a little later with another live guest. I don't know if they'll be as good as Jeremiah, but, we will find someone that is equal or just about as good. Can we do that?
Equal, just about. Not equal.
Just as
not equal. Let's be fair.
All right. We will see you a little bit later on the live version of CG, the podcast.
Are you ready to scale your real estate business? Visit thecollectivegenius.com, where real estate investors come to scale. Subscribe to the Collective Genius podcast and hit the bell icon to be notified when our next episode releases. And thanks for listening.